Massive news today. If you're a Bitcoiner and you've gone down the rabbit hole of self-custodying your Bitcoin, then you need to listen up. You may be one of the thousands of people out there whose Bitcoin is at risk of being stolen. Not due to any fault of your own, but a bug found in the code of wallet manufacturer Coldcard. This isn't clickbait. This is not a drill. This is real. And there's some people out there that believe that this bug find isn't random, like Dr. Jeff Ross. Is this actually just a coincidence? I get why people are asking that question. The timing is genuinely weird. You've got Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, publicly pressuring the Senate to pass the Clarity Act. And in his announcement, he quotes Satoshi Nakamoto directly, which is strange, but especially for a government official. And at the same exact time, hundreds of Bitcoin are being drained out of these wallets who are affected by this bug. This is sending people scrambling towards exchanges, where with the passing of the Clarity Act, those assets can be seized, controlled, frozen, and regulated with the new laws that are coming out. So here's the question on the table. Is the Coldcard exploit being utilized, intentionally or not, to scare Bitcoiners into giving up self-custody while Washington finalizes the rules for custodial crypto? And regardless of whether you're interested in that or not, you need to tune in because we have some steps to help you protect your Bitcoin if you're one of those that could be affected. We've got a lot to cover. This is Dante Coca Bitcoin Simply. Let's go. I've personally been in Bitcoin for 10 years, and I've never seen a story as concerning as the one that we're about to break down today. Let me get my personal thoughts on the table right away. I don't think that this is a coordinated attack. If you haven't heard, there was a bug found in Coldcard's code by Block, the creators of Square, and Bitkey. What they found was their random seed generator wasn't in fact as random as it should be. Nerds would call this term entropy, and the seed generation from Coldcard wallets, specifically MK3, didn't have enough entropy, which can lead to the discovery of the private key, which will allow your Bitcoin to be spent, sent, and used. This is a wallet generation problem that started in 2021 and is coming to roost in 2026 after some deep dive discovery and people finding out that single-sig wallets not using Taproot were being drained. I don't believe that this was a live backdoor where a switch was flipped so that Senate members can vote to add more provisions and more security and surveillance into a bill that's about to be passed with the Clarity Act. But that still doesn't negate the fact that if you have purchased Coldcard products in the last several years, my advice would be to you to generate a new wallet and to send your Bitcoin to a new address. If you're not sure what to do or how to do it, this is exactly why we partner with the team at the Bitcoin Way. Members of their team will teach you exactly how to do this step by step and how to help you mitigate the process of you losing your hard-earned Bitcoin that you've stacked and saved over the years. Schedule a meeting with the team using the QR in the description. This isn't affecting everyone in Bitcoin or all Bitcoin wallets. This is affecting a subset of old single-sig wallets that were randomly generated by Coldcard products, mainly the MK3. MK4 and MK5 may also be affected. So while Jeff's instincts are correct in that you need to pay attention to who benefits from this sort of crisis, I don't think it was a coordinated attack. I'm glad to see Dr. Jeff Ross is back, but I don't see any connection here. The point that we need to get to right now, how do you mitigate from your Bitcoin being stolen right now? Here's a great explainer from Stefan Livera on how to do this exactly.
Everyone, a quick important security warning for people, especially for listeners and followers out there. If you are using a Coldcard, a big serious security vulnerability has been found relating to low entropy. The main vulnerability is on the Coldcard Mark III version firmware 4.0.1 from a few years ago, but it is still also impacting newer versions, whether that's the Coldcard Mark IV, the Mark V, or the Coldcard Q. There are some mitigating factors where if you used dice rolls, so let's say 50 rolls for a 12-word seed or 99 rolls for a 24-word seed, or you had a strong passphrase, or you are using multi-sig with multiple devices, then you are mitigated from this vulnerability. But otherwise, you should strongly consider checking your setup, checking your coins, and migrating to a safer setup. Now, if you only have a Coldcard and you don't have anything else, don't worry, don't panic. There is a thing called the BIP39 word list. So this is a practical mitigation step for you. That BIP39 word list, which I'll link in the description, there are 2,048 words there. You go through and find 7 randomly, write down in order those 7 words, create a new wallet on your Coldcard, use those 7 words as your passphrase. So you have the new seed words and the 7-word passphrase, and then migrate the coins out of your old insecure setup into the new passphrase protected one. So this will give you some breathing space while you think about your next steps, and longer term, think about things like multi-sig using multiple device types and maybe using dice rolls for adding entropy to that setup also. So that's the situation as it currently is. It is now at 10 a.m. in Dubai on Friday the 31st of July. I'll try to keep updates going as this situation will evolve further, but that's the main step. So don't panic. Think about your setup and migrate into a passphrase protected setup if you don't have another device to move to.
Let's break this down because it teaches you something about Bitcoin and how Bitcoin actually works. This show is Bitcoin Simply, and my goal is to teach and to educate. Every Bitcoin wallet address has a key associated with it. Who controls the keys controls the coins. That's where the "not your keys, not your coin" slogan comes from. And if that key is generated in a way that's not truly random, someone with enough compute can actually figure out what that key is. Hence, all the fears with quantum. And so if someone were able to actually figure out what your key was, because there wasn't enough entropy, 128 bits of entropy to be exact, these wallets had about 72 bits of entropy, which isn't clearly enough for it to not be so random. And so with that, we're potentially seeing Bitcoin being sent away from people's wallets. Rob Hamilton had a great breakdown. There were 1,324 UTXOs all within a 3-block window, where 594 Bitcoin removed and 562 were consolidated into a single address. 100% of these wallets were single-sig, and that's why we always talk about multi-sig, which means we need multiple signatures in order for my Bitcoin to move. This would be like if your spouse went to Costco and spent a lot of money. Well, when they swipe at Costco, well, you would also need to swipe your card in order for funds to move. This isn't a Bitcoin issue. This isn't an issue with self-custody. This isn't an issue with the protocol itself. It was an issue for the seed generated on top of it from a random manufacturer. And here's the point I want you to walk away with. With great power comes great responsibility. The same Bitcoin that Michael Saylor and Coinbase and the US government has access to. The same Bitcoin that they're calling a national security initiative. Well, you have the same power and capability that they do. You have the same capability as someone who holds billions and billions of dollars of Bitcoin. The architecture of Bitcoin allows for self-custody, self-sovereignty, and a bare asset to move your funds and your coins. But with that, you have to understand how to protect it, how to maintain it. What is a seed phrase? How do I back it up? You have institutional grade custody, but you need to have some processes and protocols along with it. So when a wallet generation flaw pops up, you have to ask yourself, should I just give up on Bitcoin and just send my coins to an exchange for someone else to custody it? Well, the same wallet architecture that exchange uses is the same wallet architecture that you have access to. Don't fall for the lie that self-custody is somehow a bad thing. But it does require responsibility. It requires agency and effort on your behalf. And I still think self-custody matters. And why does it matter now more than ever? Let's go back to what Scott Besson had to say. In a tweet, he posted, "If you don't believe me or don't get it, I don't have time to convince you." He's actually quoting Satoshi Nakamoto in his plea for the Senate to pass the Clarity Act bill. Why does he need the Clarity Act passed so bad? And why is he mentioning Satoshi Nakamoto? We've covered this in previous episodes, but America needs a new means of money creation and debt creation, and they need it fast. Senator Warren, who is on the other side of the Clarity bill as Scott Besson and many other Republicans, says that I agree with Donald Trump and that we need to eliminate the debt ceiling. Why would she be saying that right now? The US government needs unrestricted debt creation capability. And to be able to do that through crypto, through new rails where they can create unlimited money, not back to old agreements, old fiduciary responsibilities, but tethered to a new network entirely, is specifically why they need the Clarity Act passed. I mean, look at what's happening in global markets. The US debt market and the global debt markets are collapsing in real time. The Japanese government and the Bank of Japan had to intervene in Forex markets, and the US government had to do rate checks alongside them. This is telling me that the Bank of Japan is paralyzed and they need to act. Their currency is collapsing and they don't have ways to defend it, other than to reduce and remove the sovereignty of the US dollar. Yudo, the macro analyst who everyone called a sensationalist, has been right at every turn about this Japanese yen carry trade and the collapse going on behind the scenes in Japan's debt markets. The number one debt seller in the world, Scott Besson, is doing everything he can to create new rails to sell more debt. Because without debt, well, this game ends. And collapse isn't just happening in Japan. I mean, let's look at South Korea's markets. Their exchanges collapsed 40% in 40 days. Citi says that 360% of accounts were liquidated on margin. And their government, along with Japan's government, are trying to prop up their currency. Neither of these things has to do with the hardware wallet at all, but it has everything to do with self-custody and sovereignty. All of your assets are downstream of decisions made from people layers above you. And Bitcoin gives us the power that no central bank can take away. It cannot intervene. There also are no powers to step in and save you when something like this happens. And that's why people are opting towards moving all of their assets towards a Bitcoin financial future. They understand their keys, they understand where their Bitcoin sits, and they want institutional grade banking products. And that's why Ledn exists. They allow you to borrow against your Bitcoin stack without ever needing to sell your Bitcoin. You move your Bitcoin, sign a transaction, post it to their account as collateral, and you are able to borrow fiat, 50% fiat against that with no capital gains, no taxes that could be repaid at any point in any time. This is the beginning of self-sovereignty and something you should consider. Go to learn.ledn.io/simply or use the link in the description to get started. Why does self-sovereignty matter? Well, there's some interesting points from a conversation that Ray Dalio recently had with Stephen Bartlett.
Bitcoin. What's your perspective on Bitcoin? I know the market in Bitcoin is down at the moment.
I have about 1% of my portfolio in Bitcoin because there's different kinds of money. And the money that you can't print, that's one kind. This is the other kind of money that you can't print.
Gold.
Yeah. You cannot crack it with technology. You can hold it. You own it. There's a saying that it's the only financial asset that is not somebody else's liability. Somebody has to give you something for it. It has that. So in my category of wanting, let's say, make sure that I have some hard money, which for most people should be between 5 and 15% of their portfolio, I prefer that. I'm pointing to the gold bars here rather than the Bitcoin.
Is it still, in your view, a gold-like asset?
Yes, it's a type of money that can't be printed, but there are technologies that can hurt it. In other words, if there's quantum computing and it can be monitored by governments and so on, it could be taxed. And digital currencies are somewhat similar.
But you don't like Bitcoin as much as gold because of privacy reasons as well.
And when the governments say, I don't want it, they have the power, therefore, to do whatever they want with it. And central banks will not own any significant amount of that because of the reason I said. They want their transactions to be private and in their control. Think about how different it would be for Russia. Okay, they confiscated these kind of other assets. They didn't get these.
Gold.
Okay, gold. And so what you're seeing, even particularly in this time of conflict, is that there's a sense that if I'm holding this, others won't get it.
This is a guy who's been one of Bitcoin's most out loud skeptics. And he says that I still have 1% of my portfolio in Bitcoin. And he says he holds a 5 to 15% allocation towards hard money. And although he still has some real concerns about Bitcoin, he understands that it's a finite, limited supply asset that cannot be created or minted out of thin air. He says that central banks will never hold Bitcoin because they can monitor transactions, they want things to be private, and instead, when there's a crisis, they'll go to gold. But let me critique that really quick. Who cares if Russia has a pile of gold sitting there that they're not able to spend, collateralize, that other people can't actually verify to see the exact amount of gold that they actually have? What matters if you have a pile of gold rocks that you can't utilize in any digital or modern financial system? That is why the Clarity Act is going to pass. That's why the world is never going back to shaving gold bars in order to create a monetary collateral on top of it that we can use and spend globally, real time, that settles instantly, that is able to be tracked, verified, and kept on a ledger for everyone to see. That is the world we're moving towards. We're not moving back towards a gold standard. And so your criticisms about Bitcoin might be true. They actually don't play out when you think about it in real terms, in the real world that we actually live in. And notice that he didn't say a 0% allocation. Even with his skepticism in preferring gold, he still holds Bitcoin. One of the most successful investors alive is known for hedging. He has an all-weather portfolio, and he senses that there's some storms on the horizon. And when that comes, you can't be liquidated if you actually custody your own Bitcoin. So let's zoom back out. Are the Coldcard and Clarity Act votes related? I don't think so. Do big banks and governments have incentives to drive you from self-custody to custodians? Yes. Should you trust your assets to people who don't know you, you didn't vote for, and aren't guaranteed to protect you, but their currency when stuff hits the fan? Probably shouldn't trust those folks. And so there's a balance. We should be careful and fearful of giving away all of our power. But we should understand that with great power comes great responsibility, and things like this will happen in Bitcoin. Self-custody didn't fail. Our standards and our protocols for trusting others have let us down, and we've let our guard down. This is a helpful reminder to stay vigilant and to know what you own. Not your keys, not your coin. Bitcoin doesn't give you permission to hold solid money, and neither does Coldcard or their wallet. You can generate your own wallet address by rolling dice on your living room floor, which gives you access to the greatest open source network ever created. You already have everything you need, and you're also hedging against a system that's collapsing. The US government is saying the quiet part out loud. They need the Clarity Act to pass, and they need new rails immediately. The world's running out of debt buyers who are willing to buy the US's garbage moving forward. They need new rails. They need new money. They need Bitcoin. And so do you. If you're not stacking Bitcoin in as many ways as possible, I think that you're leaving assets that are going to be meaningfully more valuable in the future than they are now on the table. One of the best ways to do that is through Bitcoin mining. Through SAS mining, you send them your money, they buy you a Bitcoin miner, they host it, they repair it, they send sats directly to your wallet. Get started with SAS mining today and subscribe to the channel if you already haven't. This is Dante Cook with Bitcoin Simply. Happy stacking.